Okay, so let's move on to the next excerpt here, division. And it hits you right away with this line. I have never known division such as this.
Right.
Setting this stark tone of societal fragmentation, you know.
Mm-hmm.
What's your initial reaction to that opening line, especially thinking about, you know, what's going on in the world today?
It's a powerful line, and yeah, I think it really resonates with the anxieties that a lot of people have today.
Yeah.
About polarization, about the fracturing of society.
Right.
You know, it really does suggest that, you know, the differences between people have become so much more pronounced.
Yeah.
And maybe even more difficult to overcome, to bridge, to, you know, come together.
Yeah, there's this vivid image that the author paints of these fly-by-night insights causing riots on the otherwise quiet streets of suburban minds.
Right.
And they're lit up by these, you know, digitized, electrified signs of recently gentrified times.
Uh-huh.
It's a real potent commentary, I think, on how quickly and how easily opinions can spread and then clash.
Oh, yeah.
In our digital age.
Absolutely.
What's the significance, do you think, of that detail about gentrified times?
Well, I think, you know, the reference to the gentrified times adds this whole other layer, doesn't it? It adds this socioeconomic context. I think it hints at the fact that maybe these divisions are exacerbated by or even intertwined with these shifts that we see happening in social structures and, you know, economic disparities.
Right.
And, you know, maybe these riots of the mind that we're talking about, maybe they're fueled by more than just those kind of fleeting online trends that come and go.
Yeah. And this critique that comes next of global echo chambers and poisoned vocabulary, hashtag narrative reality. This feels so relevant.
It does.
To the times that we live in, our current digital landscape.
Yeah.
And it just paints this picture of an environment that really actively discourages thoughtful dialogue.
Yeah.
And really looking inward.
Yeah, I think that's what's particularly concerning is this idea of these echo chambers, right? Where you're just constantly having your own beliefs reinforced. Right.
And you're not really exposed to any diverse perspectives. And then that poisoned vocabulary, it suggests this real degradation of language.
Right.
Where words have become weapons instead of tools to communicate with.
Right.
And then hashtag narrative reality that you mentioned.
Yeah.
That really speaks to this idea that, you know, really complex issues get oversimplified.
Yeah.
They get boiled down into these easily digestible sound bites, and it just prevents any kind of deeper understanding from happening.
Right. And the transformation that the author talks about next of warriors into inquisitors wielding cancellation munitions and weaponized sensitivity is, I think, a really strong and kind of unsettling metaphor for cancel culture and online shaming. What's the dynamic that you see going on here?
I think that the use of those very militaristic terms, right?
Yeah.
Inquisitors, munitions.
Yeah.
It really highlights how aggressive and punitive online discourse has become.
Yeah.
I think that term weaponized sensitivity is really interesting, right?
Right. It points to a situation where genuine concerns, legitimate concerns, can be used as this way to silence people,
right,
to punish people who have different views. And I think, you know, it can stifle that open and honest conversation that needs to happen. And it raises these questions, you know, where's that line between accountability, holding people accountable, and just seeking retribution?
Yeah. And then the author says that the age of outrage locks up respectful, positive communication. And the communication is now primarily sought for validation, resisting education. It's pretty bleak, isn't it?
It is.
Assessment of how we talk to each other.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what's really sad about that is that it's like we've shifted away from the fundamental purpose of communication, which really I think should be about mutual learning, about understanding.
Yeah.
You know, but if the main goal is just to have your own beliefs validated, then there's no room for growth.
Right.
There's no real exchange of ideas.
Right. Have we lost the ability to engage in constructive disagreement, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's becoming increasingly difficult.
Yeah.
Because people they're so entrenched in their own positions that they're not really open to hearing other perspectives. And I think that's a real loss for everyone involved.
Yeah. And then the author talks about going from woke to morally broke.
Right.
And these circling vultures of cancel culture trying to change history. This really touches upon some of the more, you know, contentious cultural debates of our time. What kind of tension do you see in these lines?
Well, I think what the speaker is expressing here is a concern about some of the potential excesses within social justice movements.
Okay.
Maybe suggesting that sometimes when we're so focused on moral purity, it can lead to its own form of rigidity and intolerance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that phrase, circling vultures, trying to change history, it really makes us think about how we interpret the past and how we engage with the past. And I think that's a very important conversation to be having.
Right. And then we have these sung lyrics that challenge this notion that just because you're offended or you're struggling, you're limited or you're angry, it doesn't automatically mean that you're right.
Right.
Or that you know the truth. The focus is on the blame game fueled by shame.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite insightful, I think. What's the core message that you take away from these lines?
I think the takeaway is that we all need to do a little bit of critical self-reflection, and that we shouldn't equate the intensity of our emotions with moral authority or factual correctness,
right?
And that emphasis on the blame game, I think, really highlights how focusing on who's to blame distracts us from, actually finding solutions and fostering understanding.
Yeah. And then this sense of time blurring, these long, long months of Sundays, a year bleeding into one day, and those connected edges just fraying and coming apart.
Right.
Really, to me, it brings home the isolating and disorienting impact of these divisions that we see in society. It's like the fabric of our shared experience is just unraveling.
It's a powerful image, right? And I think that imagery of time losing its structure and those connections weakening, it really underscores how much unease, how much detachment people are feeling right now. Mm-hmm. When the bonds of society feel so strained.
Right.
It's like, we're losing those shared rhythms where our collective experiences are becoming so fragmented. It's a strange time.
It really is.
Yeah.
All right.